is perhaps the man in the street's view of a witch's coven. But 18 months ago, Central News visited... Well, with me watching that film is a Pentecostal minister, Robert Ferguson from Nottingham. Robert, has the church lost its magic? Is this why people are turning to this kind of thing? And why shouldn't they?
Well, everybody is crying out for something supernatural. And God created us in the first place, so we desire to have supernatural things. People look for the supernatural in a variety of different forms. But this type of thing that we've been hearing about is evil, in my opinion. It's dangerous and it is deceptive.
Can you give me specific reasons or instances of why you think it's evil or dangerous?
Well, I'm involved in counselling as a Christian minister. Many people come to me from all walks of life who have been involved in all types of the occult, right from witchcraft, Satanism, right down through Ouija boards, astrology.
And what happens to them? I mean, as an outsider looking in, people might just laugh and say, well, fine, if they want to do it, okay, but so what?
Well, of course, each one of us has a choice in what we do.
But what specific danger can be done to you?
Well, people come to us with horrendous nightmares. They come to us tormented in their mind, strange things occurring in their houses. They come to us with children come to us with monsters appearing in their rooms, all sorts of scrambled minds and people longing for help.
Okay, Nigel Bourne, you're a high priest of the occult. Are you basically terribly misunderstood, do you think?
On a basic generalisation, so yes, I would think this would be a statement. I'd like to ask Robert if he equates the idea of, for example, demons appearing in people's rooms, and has been quoted to me, computer games causing people to drink blood, and this was the attitude of a couple of Welsh Christians that I spoke to about 18 months ago. Whether he equates this with an idea of the love of man for his fellow man, which is the basic tenet of witchcraft.
Well, obviously I wouldn't agree with you. There is no sense in which witchcraft is involved with love. It has nothing.
How can you say that
whatsoever
when the basic principle of witchcraft? What qualifies you to say it's evil? What do you know about witchcraft that says that?
Let me ask Doreen Irvine here. I know that you were into Satanism for many years.
And witchcraft.
And witchcraft.
Well, the two aren't synonymous. There's no way the two are synonymous.
Let Doreen tell a little bit of her story. How high or how far in this scene did you get?
Well, I started when I was 16. And I became the queen of black witches, of a very, very
no such
old
thing as a
order.
black witch.
Yes, there is. And you
well,
know
I'm sorry,
it.
I'm speaking
you
from
know
a point
it.
of extreme authority.
Tell me what that involved. What did you have to do as queen of the black witches?
Well, at first I had to prove my power as a witch, you know, in a big ceremony. And this was a very secret organisation, but it went back centuries. And it's not new because the Bible tells us it was here before the flood. And the organisation I belong to dated back centuries and centuries.
And what in Satanistic ceremonies did you do? What did you get up to?
Well, I had to, first of all, I had to obey the rules, etc., etc., and I had to give myself to Satan with my own blood, mixed with that of the white cockerel that was slain in the Satanist temple. I had to drink that blood and put my finger in the blood and sign a real parchment and sell my soul over to Satan, and he would be my slave for the rest of, I would be a slave for the rest of my life. I was his slave, and I really was his slave.
Now,
because
I know
awful
that
things
you are a
happened to me.
committed Christian,
yes.
So now you think that what happened to you was evil?
Of course it was evil. It was evil from the core.
I'd be very inclined to agree with that.
So the comment from over actually in the audience here was actually that you must have been, Doreen, pretty screwed up. That was your word, wasn't it? Pretty screwed up.
100%.
What would you say to that?
What do you mean,
To
screwed up?
involve yourself
Well, I
in
think
something like that.
surely
yeah?
you must have had the choice. You must have had the decision to
Yes,
either...
everybody's got a free choice.
Why did you make that
You
decision?
must
You do
have
that.
made that choice and said, this is right for me at that time.
Well,
Personally,
because everybody has got a free choice. You've got a free choice, I've got a free choice. I chose to go the dark way, but I didn't realise how dark it was.
What,
And the trouble is today...
slaughtering cockles?
No,
You didn't realise
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Zelda
You see, I wanted power.
You are a witch, are you not?
I am, yes.
Now, why did you start nodding, shaking your head when we were talking about black witches? when Doreen
Because
was
what
talking
you're
about black
describing sounds like some sort of perverted rite of some description.
Well, sure it was.
Probably a perversion
Nothing to
against
do with
Christianity.
occultism in that sense.
But it has nothing to do with the craft, which is the worship of the goddess and the god. It has nothing to do with that. We do not perform blood sacrifices and drugs and
It's
orgies.
against everything we believe in.
Here. Now, Peter, you're a Baptist minister.
There's a
You've been
different
listening
order.
to both the black
There are
witchcraft
different
side of
orders.
it and what would you call Norman witchcraft. What are your comments on what you've heard?
Well, clearly I can see why one is saying something against the other, because they're not saying they're into devil worship. But from a church point of view, any sort of seeking of experiences or knowledge or help, which is outside the realms that God has given to us, is outside the territory that God would want us to do.
Does that include Buddhism and Islam?
Anything that doesn't come through the way that God has opened to us in Jesus Christ,
Creative intelligence.
and through the light
Anything
that
that
He's
doesn't
shown
come
to
through
us.
Jesus Christ is then invalid.
Yes.
That sounds like bigotry
is
to
the
me.
most perfect way of seeing what God has shown of it
But
himself.
only in view of the Christians.
Let's just hand it back to our panel again, Sue.
OK, I would like to ask Eric Maple, who's sitting on the end here, who I hesitate to describe as a fence-sitter, but more as an academic who has looked at the whole issue of demonology for many years. Eric, what conclusions, after years of research, have you drawn about it? Is there anything in it? Is it dangerous?
I will say this. Historically, the examples that the gentleman quoted of demons, they crop up time and time again in the course of history. But with the advance of medicine, we find that doctors and physicians handled the case, and the clergy receded from the scene. And they had to. Now, alas, they've crept back, trying to monopolise the field. I can't see why you're trespassing on the area that belongs to medicine, sir. You are a professional theologian, you're a spiritual guide, and you have people come to you who are fairly obviously sick, and yet you're trying to treat them. Now,
Well,
that seems...
Jesus, when he was here on the earth, cast out demons.
But this gentleman isn't Jesus.
No, but God has given him his power.
How do you know?
Because we know him as our Saviour and our Lord.
How do you
and he's
know
given
this-
us authority over all the power
What,
of the
this
devil.
gentleman?
That's what the Bible
But in
says.
the words that
We
have been
believe what the
spoken to me,
Bible
Doreen,
says.
in the words that have been spoken to me
Well,
a
we
number
believe
of
the Bible.
times, if I can get a word in, how do you know that isn't Satan speaking to you?
I wonder, Nigel, if I can ask you what the difference is. I mean, there are lots of different arguments here about black magic, white magic, demonology, witchcraft.
Right.
Are they all the same thing?
No. It annoys me and many thousands of people along with me intensely that the word witchcraft should be lumped in with Satanism. I mean, it is just a complete generalisation, and any academic in the world would throw it out of court completely. A witch cannot be a Satanist. It is an absolute physical and semantic impossibility. I think that all of the Christians in this room would agree with me that Satan is basically a Christian concept. Would you agree with me on that point?
100%.
Of course,
Yes?
Yes.
Right. Am I a Christian?
Listen, I want
No,
to bring
no,
in
can
Merlin.
I-
I want
can I
to bring
finish,
in...
Andy,
no,
just for a
just a
second?
moment, because I think it's important. We've got to move it around a bit. You had your choice as well. I want to bring in Merlin or Morgana here, which is both alias Reg and Dot from our area. Now, you actually are a husband and wife team practising witchcraft. How popular is witchcraft becoming? I've been told it's becoming more popular than ever. Is that the case?
100%. Yes. You see, I'd like to take 2 points. First of all, I've been looking around the studio tonight, coming in, and I'm looking for all these black witches that's been put out tonight before you came here. Come and see the black witches tonight, but I can't see any around here. I've got some news for you. We are white witches. We operate on the white side.
What is it that's making people want to come along to you, perhaps at the expense of Christianity?
It's something what's missing in the churches they can't find. It's allowing them to be themselves without being doctrinated. You must not do this, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do this. Well, it's a way to develop one's own character. You see, that film you showed, that was a film showing a goat having its neck cut.
Yeah.
The Muslims do that on their rituals.
Let me
as
ask
well.
Robert Ferguson what actually is missing in the church, then, if that is the case.
Well, in the church, there is nothing missing. Jesus is still doing exactly the same things as he was doing 2,000 years ago.
There is a
He is
lot
transforming people's lives. He's giving them a life better than they can find it anywhere else. He is setting people free who are involved in all types of the
exactly what
occult.
we
He's
say.
healing the sick. He's doing just the same things as he's always done.
Let me throw this point at you. Look, you actually represent the Pentecostal church.
Yes.
Now, that is, I believe, a charismatic kind of approach to things.
Right.
Would you agree that by virtually building people up to the old Bible bashing days and building up the fervour, that you're also in danger of almost building up the other side, the occult, as well?
No, because we're making our point absolutely clear. We're saying that this anything involved in the occult. Of course, there is differences between witchcraft and Satanism, but anything involved in the occult stems from the devil.
No
the devil
way.
is deceptive.
Rubbish.
No, that's
Absolute rubbish.
Excuse me, if I just say that the occult means the world of the unknown.
Unknown.
And this applies to all religions. Would the guest here say that healing is evil, clairvoyance is evil? Would you say this is so? I asked this question.
I want to know what is behind the source of
We're
power.
asking you a
A
question.
simple
God
question.
is behind the source of power.
Excuse me.
Classically, Jehovah.
Just hold on a minute. Hold on a minute.
Why it increased, why people are doing it more and more.
Would you...
And I tell you what, the Bible has the answer, because it says in Timothy, the Spirit clearly says,
Who says that
that
Timothy was
some
right?
people will abandon the faith in the latter times. Today we're living in the latter times before Jesus comes. And he said
Read.
more wickedness will increase, and it is, all over the place. And because of the situation of the world today, where there's divorce, where there's unemployment,
There's
where
no
there's
divorce in
confusion,
witchcraft.
there's
There
fear.
is no divorce in
No, but
witchcraft
it
at
goes on
all.
all around, and that's why people are
We
so
are a
confused
caring
and frightened.
family.
They're
We care for
turning
each
to these
other.
things.
And what about the evil that happened during the Christian era, when
We
thousands
have
of innocent
never
people were
ever
murdered?
caused a war or bloodshed. We have always been persecuted at. Always. We have never caused one war or anything.
Let's just leave it at that for the moment.
No
shall we?
one condemns it.
We have a little
Because
illustrative
you know,
film
all it
here
is.
that might actually promote some more questions and answer one or two. Perhaps the most common layman's view of all the satanic ceremonies that go on is that they are to do with nude rituals like this one. This is perhaps the man in the streets view of a witch's coven. But 18 months ago, Central News visited an actual session where the spell being cast was for the health of the witch's grandson, Scott. He was in hospital in the intensive care unit.
There is a little baby, 1.5 pounds, in the intensive care. We pray not only for the child but for the parents this night, for there is great need. And also for the other babies that's in the intensive care unit, and also for the staff that are working so hard. There is a great need, as each and every one of you know. With the blue light of healing, may this candle be charged through the fire, the earth, the air, and the water.
This is candle magic, and the witches are trying to combine their powers to send out the healing rays to their targets. Morgana says that the energy should manifest itself by making the candle burn higher and brighter.
Now may we all think of the plants, the animal kingdom, as we put our thoughts out. Now.
Well, that was 16 months ago, and now Scott is a fine, healthy little boy.
Every week he's in the healing pool, and I think it's helped him a great deal, because he's, as you can see, he's quite strong and healthy, and you would never have thought that if you'd have seen him when he was born. And if it hadn't have been through Dot, I don't think he would be quite as well as he is. If I didn't know Dot and her coven, and I didn't have the benefit of their work, what they do for me, then I'm sure that I would have many more problems with Scott and his health. But thankfully I do know that they work, for him, and I've got utmost confidence that he'll stay healthy.
Well, Pastor Mike Prince, I mean, there seems to be nothing really sinister about that. There they were praying in their own way for the health of a child. He's now healthy and well, thank goodness. How, if the end result is goodness, can you describe that as evil?
It starts off in the sense that many people think that there is goodness coming from it, but many of the casualties that we have had to speak to on a modern housing estate at Quinton have found that the goodness has sadly turned to sourness and sadness, quite honestly.
Where does that leave the child now that he's actually been, if we say the magic or the miracle has happened?
It leaves the child in one sense that the child has believed that what its parents are doing is in essence good. But where it leaves the child in himself is yet to be found out when the child grows up and finds himself.
You think something may manifest itself in the child, do you?
I would think that the child itself is, on a way to...
Well, let's ask the grandparents.
This is the most ridiculous rubbish I've ever known. I have worked for 25 years solid, and every article you will read about me says I'm a very personal, responsible person.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Where does your power come from?
I believe from one source, from where we all come, but we have
Which
spiritual
is? Can you
parents.
give it a name?
No, I just call it a source, the source of all light that we all look to.
The Bible gives it a name.
No, we call it a source.
No, it does. No, the Bible does not give it a
We
name.
don't have the Bible. We say the
Yes,
source.
I know you don't
And
have
this
the Bible.
source is the greatest
I know.
power of all.
But the Word of God gives it a name.
No, we call it the source, the universal source, the light that is a spark of each and every one of us.
So we're talking about the same thing.
They're talking about the same thing.
Peter nodding. Just,
And I-
How is it different?
This could be an argument.
let me just stop you. You can't have conversations amongst yourselves, if you don't mind. Let me just
This
ask
can be an
Peter.
argument, and we're not going to get too far on it because it's one.
No, we're all sensible people. We're all sensible
It's
people.
one
We're going to
holy
listen
book
to the
over against
conversation.
another one. The evidence is that the child is better at this stage.
Yes, indeed.
But the most important thing in life for us all, from a Christian point of view, is that there is response to Christ. Now, as that child grows up, what manifestations, there might be no ill health whatsoever, but when these people perhaps want to turn to Christ in the way that we would like them to, or that child would want to, there may be some bondages or pressure that prevents them to do so, because they've opened themselves to a realm which is not pleasing in God's sight.
Chris Bray.
Would you allow your son to come to witchcraft?
Well, of course not, no.
Well, then, why deny us that facility, that freedom?
We are not.
In reverse.
May I come in there? We're not denying you that facility or that freedom. Every man has a free choice to declare his own destiny and find his own destiny. But Jesus Christ has said that when
Yes,
Satan
but that
speaks...
Jesus Christ is a prophet.
Can I
There are
speak?
many prophets.
There are many,
There are many prophets.
Yes,
One at
there's
a
one
time. It's only fair
prophet.
that
Can I
every other
speak?
time.
Can I finish this?
Please do.
Jesus Christ said that when Satan speaks, he speaks his own native language, which is a liar. And he's
Look,
been
my
a
friend,
liar and a
I have
murderer from the beginning.
25,000 very close acquaintances,
Yes.
clients who I supply.
I have thousands
done,
upon thousands of Christians who hold to the same truth.
Of course, and on a head count, we should all be Buddhists because they have the majority.
We're not going to
so
get
we're not going to get anywhere on that basis, are we?
We're not going to get very far talking about numbers.
There is
soon.
nobody
Okay,
who I know
want to
who is
ask,
involved in
Eric,
what you're
you must
talking
have been-
about. You're
Eric, you
talking
must have
about
been involved in...
Hold on a
Chris,
minute.
please.
You must have been involved in conversations.
Thank you.
You must have been involved in conversations and debates like this, time without number. Do you think that it is a debate that is about the serious power of evil that is harming people, or are people on both sides completely overreacting?
Yes, I'm quite convinced of their sincerity, but that doesn't help because the Holy Inquisition was tremendously sincere when it applied the rack. And remember, some 400,000 witches died in accordance with the injunction in the Book of Words, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. And when they repealed the laws against witchcraft, the church was violently opposed to it. So we don't find mercy. What I don't like about the church, and I don't like about Christianity, it tries to monopolise, it tries to take over.
Do you feel persecuted, Nigel?
Yes, I do, but I also feel that truth is persecuted. I feel that there's a lot being said that implies that the church, because it claims to have the word of God, is de facto correct. Does this mean, I mean, for example, I'm not a Christian, I don't uphold Christian principles in terms of Christianity. What I object to is being told that I am wrong simply because Christians believe that they're right.
Okay, what about religious freedom, Robert? I mean, you do allow it to all the other faiths that exist in Britain today.
Clearly, every single person has a choice in what he believes. But the key is what is truth. And Jesus said, I am the truth.
Well, that is a legitimate thing that you can believe, but you allow other beliefs. Why not this?
Can I answer that, Sue?
Yes.
May I answer that?
Yes.
Because the Bible forbids it.
No, it
because
doesn't.
God is
No,
a good
it
God.
does not.
Is a good God. It does forbid it.
No,
May
it
I?
does
It
not.
does. Listen. Listen.
Me, Doreen, I
It's
know what
written.
you're going to do. You're going to
Look,
quote to me,
there shall not be
Deuteronomy
found among you anyone who makes his son or daughter to pass through the fire, or who uses divination, or observer of times, or an enchanter of a witch, or a charmer of a consulter of mediums, and that's what it's forbidden by
I
God.
want to go back to Andy.
I am going to change the subject slightly here, because I want to know, Chris, I want to ask you, I mean, I saw the film that you were on there, and I see you've got 25,000 people who actually are your customer. It's got to be a pretty big business, hasn't it, really?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, if you'd like to.
I mean, the fact that there are 25,000 subscribers, I mean, there could be 3 million subscribers, because it's back to choice again and the sort of spiritual climate in which we're living. The fact is that
do you
the
think these
churches...
people are being ripped off, basically, then? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they're investing their cash in something that they're getting something out of.
Well, if that's
I
the
think,
question, look at the Vatican's riches.
Well, that's a different issue again. Obviously, they're getting something out of it, but I personally feel it's not very helpful to them. But the fact of numbers is irrelevant because within us we will seek after things. We'll seek after supernatural experiences.
But isn't the number of people that are now following the occult or witchcraft, isn't that concerning you? I mean, what is the church doing?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, numbers are also growing in church circles.
Let me bring in Morgana.
What church have you been to recently where you can state that fact?
Morgana,
My
you can answer
local
that
church.
question.
What church is that?
The Church of St James's down the road from me. The 6 people was in there last attendance. And just near me now, the church is being
I
sold.
suggest you go to Youth Quakes. I suggest you go to
been all
Dales.
over. I travel 1,000 miles.
How many turn up at one of your ceremonies? Can I ask you that? How many turn up at one of your ceremonies?
I have about between 16 to 40 every Wednesday on the teaching side alone. Yes. And I can guarantee that I have a packed room. Sometimes I can't even get enough people in. Merlin.
Right. Merlin, I want to ask you something now, because we're running out short of time.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you are always in control of what is around you? Do you actually really, deep down inside, know what you're doing with, and you never ever feel that you might be playing with something you can't handle?
No, and I feel very sorry for the people who do not understand. I have 2 laws I live by. My first law is my truth is based upon my experience of what I believe. And my second law, respect other people's truth. In that way, we may have a link, the chain of understanding.
I think I'm going to leave the last word to Robert Ferguson and the panel.
Well, I can only say that anyone who gets involved in the occult is liable to get their fingers burnt. Yes. Jesus said he's come to give us life better than we can find it anywhere else. And that is what I believe, and that is what I preach, and that is what I trust, that each one of us can come to that truth.
Are we not just a threat to your popularity then?
The church is growing. The church is growing to a massive extent all over the world. There are thousands of Christians.
You come to one of my circles and find out what we really do, and I'll come to your church quite happily.
Would you accept that invitation, Robert?
With us to see the
Do you know,
work we do.
it's pretty obvious that actually we could spend all night talking about this, indeed, right? Don't forget, we've got Peter Hymes, who's back in the...